Welcome once again to Against the Spread, where we here at Sportsnet give you our best bets against the spread in the NFL right here for you on YouTube. I am Donovan Bennett, and normally I have zero confidence in my picks, and that might be the case this week because it is a tough week, but I had a winning record. Most importantly, we got our survivors right, so that's a good start.
Yeah, I barely survived, winning by 1 point with Seattle against the surprisingly good Bengals, and you survived quite handily with your pick of the Patriots.
Well, I think what we see every year is there's some overreaction to what happens in week one. I think we're seeing that in the line, some big spreads. Let's start at one with Carolina, the Thursday nighter, which is always a dog of a football game, but good to bet. Will you be betting with the underdog, Tampa Bay, going to Carolina? They're plus 6.5 at the underdog.
The biggest question mark coming into week one was, were we going to see the same old Jameis Winston? And the answer was a resounding yes, with 2 pick sixes and a third pick that luckily didn't get returned for a touchdown. But that was the difference in the game, and I just don't trust Jameis Winston enough to take this spread. It's at 6.5 in favor of the Panthers. So I think, 1 pick six covers that. So just, Christian McCaffrey was a beast. Cam Newton was okay in their game this week. But because of the Winston factor, I can't bet on the Bucs, so I'm going all Panthers here.
Yeah, this is a matchup for me about the quarterbacks and your confidence in them, and in the case of Carolina, confidence in the quarterback's health. Jameis Winston threw more TD passes to the other team than he did to his. A pick 12 in a game is pretty tough. Cam Newton didn't complete a pass longer than 17 yards, but he was able to manage the game, and I don't think he will have to complete a pass longer than 17 yards against Tampa Bay. I like Carolina in this one, and 77% of the public agrees. I don't know if the public is going to agree with us on our next one. Arizona going to Baltimore, 2 explosive offenses, 2 fun quarterbacks, but I think we're seeing maybe an overreaction from what we saw in week one. The Ravens are minus 13, even though they're at home. Is that too much of a number for you?
That's way too big. It's bloated because of how dominant they were. I mean, Lamar Jackson was perfect. Don't even talk about questions of whether he can throw the ball. He was perfect as a passer against the Dolphins. And I think because the Dolphins are so bad, that this is way too big of a spread. And the Cardinals, despite 3 quarters of really, really bad offense, got it together, found a rhythm to end up tying the Lions, and the spread is too big for me, so I'm going to go with the Cardinals here. We got burned by big spreads week one. I don't want that to happen again.
Yeah, and the Cardinals were much better in the second half. And I think in the second game of seeing Baltimore's offense, seeing what everyone thought was going to be super, super run heavy and end up being really run option heavy, I think there's going to be a bit of an adjustment for the rest of the league because the Ravens and John Harbaugh didn't put anything on tape throughout the preseason. So I think I'm going to take the points. I'm going to take the Cardinals. Do I think they're going to win the game? Absolutely not. And I'll actually get into more of that later, but the number is much, much too big for me. I thought this was actually going to be a bigger spread because of, again, overreacting to week one. Dallas on the road, 4.5 is the number, going to in-division rival, the Washington Redskins. Are you going with the home dog here?
No, I'm not going with the home dog. I'm surprised at how small this spread is, given how dominant Dak Prescott was in that game against the Giants. I mean, what better way to show the world you deserve to get paid than do what Dak did, 4 touchdowns against the Giants. He was basically perfect again. And given, Washington came out hot against Philadelphia, but I think that had a lot more to do with Philadelphia's unpreparedness than it had to do with how good Washington is. I think Case Keenum will rack up some yards this season as long as he's starting, but I don't think they were shut down in that second half against the Eagles, and the Cowboys will do the same thing. They won't let Washington get off to that start though. So I'm with 80+% of bettors out there. I'm going with the Cowboys.
This is a curious line because it started at +7, has moved now to 4.5, yet still 81% of the people are with Cowboys, the America's team. is there something here that I'm missing? Like in game 2, Dallas's running back is going to be better. Ezekiel Elliott is coming from Cabo. He's going to have a better game. And in game 2, the Redskins running back that they were really excited about, he's not going to be playing. He's injured. And so they're going to have to go from Adrian Peterson not being a factor to theoretically sharing the carries with Chris Thompson, who will be a good fantasy play in some bigger leagues. I'm taking Dallas all day in this one, and this line really, really has me confused.
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense.
The next one for me is a pick'em game, and if this line was either way, I would not be surprised. It is actually in favor of Tennessee at -3. They are hosting the Colts, another in-division matchup early in the year. 75% of the public is with the Titans. Are you?
No. Interestingly enough, the Colts are 12-2 against the Titans since the start of 2012. The 2 losses are with Jacoby Brissett under center, but that was a much different team, a much worse offensive line. Now they have a top offensive line, and the Titans were impressive, no doubt, against the Browns. They embarrassed the Browns, especially in that fourth quarter, but that game was really close until the Browns started turning the ball over. And that it was 15-13 in the third quarter at one point, and the Colts showed up against the Chargers. They pushed them to overtime. Brissett was really good. The defense is good. I like the Colts here to straight up win or at least keep it within a field goal. These teams will play tight.
I like the Colts to straight up win, so if you're giving me 3 points, I'll certainly take it. Tennessee did look good against the Browns, but how much of that was the Browns not looking good, giving up over 2 football fields basically in penalty yards? Yeah. I think that's why the game was close early, and then it got away late because of the turnovers. On the flip side, I think there was an overreaction to how bad the Colts were going to be. We had that conversation a bit last week, and a guy who you're familiar with, their head coach, Frank Reich, I think that his job is similar where in Philadelphia, what did he do? He lost his starter. He made a system around the backup, allowing the backup to succeed. He's doing that again with the Colts, but in this way, the system was already there to really protect Andrew Luck. Not a lot of 5- and 7-step drops, throwing the ball down the field because they needed to keep him healthy and upright. So in a way, the system is already there to protect the quarterback and give him some easy reads and decisions. So I do think the Colts are much better than Tennessee. And if you're going to give me points, even though they're traveling to Tennessee on the road, I'm with actually the 25% of the public. I'm hammering the Colts all day. Seattle at Pittsburgh, 2 teams that didn't look the best.
They were kind of disappointments. The Steelers
were definitely a disappointment.
And Seattle just survived a tough Bengals team at home.
So what do you make of this line with Pittsburgh being the home favorite at -4?
I think it mostly has to do with the fact that Seattle not only didn't look great in that home opener, but also has to travel to the East Coast, which has proven to be a bit of a struggle for them in the past.
For a 1 o'clock game as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's tough. A 10 a.m. start, their time is a tough start. But that being said, given what we saw from the Steelers against a Patriots team that is no doubt one of the top teams in the AFC, I still have to go with Seattle here. I think that this is going to be a close game. Both offenses struggled in week 1, and so it wouldn't be a shocker to me if this is decided by a field goal or less. So that's why I've got to go with Seattle here.
I am going to go with the Steelers, and the proximity and where the game is, to me, is the issue. You mentioned the travel for Seattle and the early start. The other issue for me is Pittsburgh is a much different team at home at Heinz Field. They're 4-2 in their last 6 against the spread at home. Roethlisberger is a much better quarterback at home. His turnovers skyrocket when he's on the road. So I do think they're going to bounce back. I don't see them starting the season 0-2, and that's why I'm going to go with the Steelers in the 1 o'clock matchup.
I just don't see where the points come from after that performance. And given the struggles they had in the secondary as well, I think Russell Wilson could beat them deep a couple of times. That's my biggest concern with the Steelers based off that Sunday nighter.
Yeah, that's a valid concern. I thought I was going to be much more concerned about these next 2 teams than I actually am.
Yeah.
And I guess that replicates itself in the line and why it's so close. San Francisco up +1. I think everyone who was afraid about what Jimmy G was going to be because of the 5 consecutive interceptions understand that. Is he going to be the next Tom Brady? No. But is he a serviceable NFL quarterback? Yes. And the A.J. Greenless Cincinnati Bengals looked okay in week 1.
Career day for Andy Dalton.
Yes, without his best receiver. Career day for John Ross, who hardly is healthy.
Where did that come from?
And now everyone is trying to get them picked up in terms of their waiver priority in their fantasy league.
Yeah.
The Bengals at home, -1 over the Niners. Another team traveling from west to east for a 1 o'clock start. Who do you like in this one?
I like the Bengals here. The 49ers, there isn't reason to be concerned about Jimmy G. I think he's going to get better as he's still coming back from that knee injury, and it's going to take some time for him to get acclimated. That being said, that was a sloppy game against the Bucs. I think there were 4 touchdowns that were called back because of penalties, and I just don't think the 49ers are fully there yet, whereas the Bengals went on the road in a tough place to play and had the Seahawks up against the ropes. And Dalton looked good under Zach Taylor. He got the ball out quick. He was protected, and he got a lot of receivers involved, including John Ross, as you said. I think the Bengals are a lot better than a lot of people, including myself, expected them to be. And at home against a team in the 49ers who, like I said, might not be completely at 100% yet, I like the Bengals here.
I don't know if they're a lot better, but I do think we underappreciate the bump that you can get in coaching. A new voice, a fresh voice, and in this case, maybe a better voice, especially in terms of offensive play calling.
Sure.
And so the Bengals certainly are helped out there. I look at this game and I'm like, am I really going to say that the Bengals are going to start the season 2-0? Like, is that really going to be?
Well, they actually lost.
Oh, right, yeah, sorry.
But close enough.
Yes. Am I really going to think that they're going to start with 2 good performances? No. The Mixon injury really, really scares me because I don't think Giovanni Bernard is an every down back at this point. But San Francisco has injuries in terms of their backfield, and Tevin Coleman going down
that's a big one.
is an issue. Matt Breida, it looks like he's banged up as well. So I'm going to take the team at home, the team that looked better in week 1. And despite probably what is my better judgment, I'm going to pick the Bengals.
At that spread, I think, like if it was 4, then maybe you think about it. But at 1, I like the Bengals.
Yeah. Do you like, yet again, another team going from west to east early in the season? The Los Angeles Chargers going to Denver. And even though they're making the trek, they are the favorites at -2.5.
I do like them, and I like them because under Anthony Lynn, this team plays great on the road. Last year, they were 7-1 away from home. And now they're going to a Lions team who was dominant for 3 quarters and then blew it against a rookie quarterback and a rookie head coach. And yes, that's the number 1 overall pick, but you don't do that when you have such a big lead as the Lions did against the Cardinals. And the Chargers, their offense didn't miss a beat without Melvin Gordon. Austin Eckler was a monster. And I think that continues on the road against the Lions. And with that spread, this is an easy one for me.
Yeah, I think people are down on the Chargers because it was pretty close. It looked like it was going to be a tie, and it took overtime.
I think that says more about the Colts than it does about the Chargers.
Well, that's my point. I think those are 2 teams that are going to be in the playoff conversation, towards the end of this season. That's not the case for the Lions, and that's not the case for the team the Lions were playing against. So the fact that they were dominant to start, but they really fell apart towards the end of the game is a little bit more concerning for me. So certainly, small number 2.5 is virtually nothing. If they're going to win, they're going to win by probably more than 2.5 anyways. I like the Chargers in this matchup. Minnesota at Green Bay. Minnesota, the underdog at +3. Everyone really excited about how that defense looked for Green Bay now that they've really solidified it with the 2 Smiths in the offseason and getting Amos in the division. The offense didn't look that good, however.
No.
Do you have trust in the Packers at -3 at home at Lambeau?
Not yet, no. And I think the Vikings are now exactly what Mike Zimmer has always envisioned them to be, a dominant team on the ground. Dalvin Cook looks like one of the best running backs in the league right now. They have a really great offensive line. Kirk Cousins threw the ball 10 times, which is not something I realized until afterwards. And that defense is really good. They made the Falcons look confused and lost. And given where Green Bay was on Thursday night when we saw them offensively, there's still a lot of work to be done. I see this being a slugfest, but I could see it being decided by a last-second field goal, or that dominant run game takes over the game for the Vikings and keeps Aaron Rodgers off the field. So I'm going Vikings.
Yeah, and I'm really torn, and my better judgment says Vikings because I think they could win this game outright. So if you give me the points, certainly I'll take it. Do I think they're going to be able to run the ball only 10 times and win again against Aaron Rodgers and the offense that didn't look good, but certainly with time, with a new play caller and Aaron Rodgers, one of the 4 quarterbacks with 0 snaps in the preseason.
It'll get there.
It'll get there. This is their preseason. No, I think they're going to have to be much more expansive with the football, even though Cook went over 100 and had 2 scores running the ball. I'm really torn, and I've gone back and forth on this game. I'm going to take the Vikings only because I'm getting some points. I do think the Packers are the better team, and I do think the Packers may win the game. But the buffer and having some points on my side in a game that I'm unsure of, I like that aspect of it. This game, I'm not really unsure of. 8.5 is the line between Houston and Jacksonville. Houston is at home, and 59% of the public likes the Texans after what they saw on Monday night. What say you?
The biggest concern for me when it comes to the Texans is obviously going to be the offensive line. Deshaun Watson took some shots last night, and he was amazing. He slung it. He looks really good, an MVP candidate in Houston. But if he keeps getting hit like he did last night against a Jaguars defense that can get after it, that's my biggest concern. That being said, Nick Foles is out. Gardner Minshew and that mustache have to take the field, and it's not going to be easy against a Texans defense that is no slouch itself. So even though the size of this spread more than a touchdown gives me a bit of pause, I have to take the Texans here because I think they can rack it up.
So I see storylines happen, and I can just see Gardner Minshew being the
next Nick Foles.
No, I was going to say the next Ryan Fitzpatrick, where he has a hot month and is winning a bunch of games, and then eventually reverts back to the mean and is who we thought he is. Because when he got in, he looked great.
Yeah, he did.
And do I think Jacksonville will win? No. But do I think the Houston Texans are going to run away with the football game? No. They had a chance to run away with the game on Monday Night Football, and they weren't able to do it.
That's the Saints we're talking about and Drew Brees here.
True.
These are the Jags with a rookie quarterback.
But these are the Jags with a defense that is still pretty good.
That's the difference maker here.
It is better than how they looked against the Chiefs because it is the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And so with a number this big, I'm going to take Jacksonville, even though they're on the road, and even though Houston looked good at times. I can just see the storyline of the Jags either upsetting Houston or keeping it really, really close where everyone's nervous, and then it's a field goal game at the end. So I'm going to ride with the Jags and their unknown but interesting quarterback. Speaking of riding with a massive number, I mean,
this is the biggest number I've ever seen.
This is a college football number.
This is crazy.
18.5 points for the New England Patriots.
But people like it, like that percentage of people that are taking these points.
67% of them.
That's crazy.
And they're going to Miami to face the Dolphins. So by the time this game kicks off, who knows is still going to be on their team because, as Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk reported, after they got beat down in week 1, there's players talking to their agents about getting them out of Dodge. and the reason why this number is so big is because the perception is that only one of these teams actually wants to win football games.
Right.
And so if you're going to lay money, you're going to lay money on the team that really wants to win, is adding, the guy who ranks first in pass receptions, pass receiving yards, and pass receiving TDs since 2013, Antonio Brown. And with Miami, they basically gave away one of their best receivers in Kenny Stills, who made a big play on Monday Night Football. They're tanking in the NFL, which is something we don't normally see.
No, it's brand new.
But we don't normally see 18.5 points either. So what do we do with this number?
I don't know. I think back to last year. I think it was week 3, and the Bills went into Minnesota, and they were 16.5-point underdogs, and they destroyed the Vikings. It's like
Josh Allen.
Jumped over the linebacker.
Yes.
So that was the first thing that popped into my head when I saw this number, and then the second thing that popped into my head were all those Lamar Jackson pinpoint throws that just roasted the Dolphins. So as much as the red flags are up for me here, I can't pick the Dolphins. I just can't. And this is an outrageous spread, and normally I would say no way would I ever take this. But considering what we saw Sunday night from the Patriots, they're getting Antonio Brown into the mix. And what we're seeing, like the fallout from this Dolphins loss is going to be felt throughout the entire locker room. And how do you come out and think that you're going to compete here? I'm concerned about their compete level, and it would be great to see them bounce back and give the Patriots a run, but I just don't see it happening. So at 18 and a half, it's probably going to be 21 by the time of kickoff or more. I'll take that now.
See, I think we're going to see the most competition from the Dolphins early in the year, because guys are going to want to put good tape on film, hoping to get traded before the deadline.
I hope you're right.
I think it's after the trade deadline where this could get really, really ugly when they know exactly how close they are.
The idea
to
that it's
Tua
going to get worse.
or Herbert. Well, yeah, I mean it's a fair point, but Antonio Brown is coming. But what version of him is coming? The offense for New England is very intricate. Tom Brady is pretty surgical on where he wants his guys to be. Antonio Brown, much more a freelancer, and the fact that Ben Roethlisberger made plays off schedule is part of the reason why he was so successful. And we've seen it take some time for receivers to get on the same page with Tom Brady. It wasn't an immediate thing for Josh Gordon last year. I love taking underdogs because when the game starts and kickoff happens, you're already for the good, and you just have to stay that way. When this game starts, if you're taking the underdog, the Patriots need to score 3 unanswered TDs virtually for you to be in a place of panic. So from that standpoint alone, I'm taking the Dolphins. And if they lose, they lose. But 18.5 points is crazy.
Yeah, it's hard to stomach that. I'm still going to do it, though.
This number is actually closer than I thought it would be. -2 for Buffalo. Even though they're on the road, they're going to the New York Football Giants. And 58% of the public says, give me the road dog and the Giants. Who do you like?
This one is tough. I think the Bills, what we saw from the Bills on Sunday against the Jets is their blueprint to winning games this season is let the defense, which is dominant, there's no two ways about it, keep them in games, hang around until Josh Allen is able to get it together and then win the game. And I think that's what's going to happen here. Another interesting thing that went down on Sunday is when Devin Singletary, the rookie running back, came in for the Bills, they were different. Yes. The offense was different. They were way better. So I think he's going to get a lot more touches here against a Giants defense that got shredded by Dak Prescott. And the Giants, Eli Manning looked okay. Saquon Barkley's good. Evan Ingram, good. But outside of that, I don't really like what they're doing, and I don't think they really have a chance against a dominant Bills defense. So I'm going to take the Bills on the road.
Yeah, my concern with the Bills is what happened before the 17 unanswered points, and that was the 4 turnovers by Allen. And even though I think the Giants are going to be right behind Miami for the worst team in football, the Bills aren't good enough for me yet that I'm willing to have them as a road favorite and feel really, really confident about it, even though the number's -2. So I'm going to take the Giants at home. The theme this week has been big spreads, and Kansas City started a bigger favorite, and then I think after what happened on Monday night, this line's a bit moving. Oakland was underdogs to the Chiefs at home by 8.5. It is now 8. Do you like Kansas City in this spot?
I like Kansas City to win the game. I'm going to take the Raiders against the spread, though. Last night, they showed a lot. I mean, yes, they're at home, but this game is also in Oakland. So the defense is good. Derek Carr looked really good behind an offensive line that really protected him well against a Broncos team that was expected to have one of the better defensive pass rushes in the NFL, and they couldn't even get after him. And Kansas City isn't as good as the Broncos are in their front seven. So I think based on Monday night's results and the fact that Tyreek Hill is out, Pat Mahomes has some things to figure out. Sammy Watkins isn't going to have another career day. And the Jaguars ended up keeping it a lot closer than many thought they might without Nick Foles. So I think I'm going to take the Raiders here. It might be the last time that I take the Raiders if we see what happens here. But I have to take the Raiders here given the size of that spread.
I vowed to not take the Raiders this season, and that didn't really go in my favor.
They were way better than I expected them to be.
Yes.
Like them and the Bengals were the surprises of the week for me.
Jacobs looked great.
Yeah.
Williams looked like he could fill the void and be their version of a number one receiver.
On the broadcast, they called him the anti-AB.
Wow.
Which shouldn't be a good thing, but it ends up being a good thing in this time.
Lots of height, not a lot of drama. So from that standpoint, he is the anti-AB. But when the Chiefs win, they win big, whether it's home or away. So the number 8 doesn't really scare me. I don't think they necessarily have a huge day throwing the football again because Watkins isn't Tyreek Hill. But I don't think it matters because they've got a really good offensive line. They got a stable of good backs. Williams showed you that he can be a lead runner. And McCoy
played well.
Is going to continue to get more and more comfortable.
Yep.
So I think still there's too many talented offensive playmakers on that Kansas City offense. I don't think it's out of the question that they win this game by more than 8 points. So I will take the Chiefs on the road in the divisional matchup. This is a rematch.
Yes, the rematch.
The most controversial football game.
Yeah, in a long time.
Since probably Patriots Raiders, right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Definitely since the Dez catch, no catch.
Yes.
Right?
That was there. And then you obviously had Patriots, Colts, Deflategate.
Yeah, but that was, that changed the game.
Yes.
So
it changed the season.
Yeah.
Because we could have had a different team in the Super Bowl. I still think one of these two teams is going to make the Super Bowl coming out of the NFC.
Yeah, the Saints look good. When Drew Brees finally got it together on Monday night, they were way better than, it looked like he was a little bit off, maybe that lack of preseason action that everyone's talking about, but when they got rolling, they were unstoppable, clearly.
Yeah, nobody is better than him in a 2-minute drill offense or leading a team coming back for points. He may have to do it again this week. Is tall task. New Orleans goes to the Los Angeles Rams, who are -3 favorites at home. The line came out at 3. It is still at 3. Who do you like in the 4:25 Eastern matchup?
I love the idea of redemption here, and I'm going to throw away all logic. And last night or Monday night's win over the Texans, a lot of people saw it as redemption because a lot of calls didn't go their way on Monday night as well. But this is redemption. This is the one that matters when it comes to making up for what happened last year. And I got to go with the Saints. I love the idea of them winning it here and not making up for the fact they didn't go to the Super Bowl, but at least being able to feel like, they can beat those Rams, show everybody they can beat them. And I think it's going to happen.
To me, this is just almost like an old school, just playing in the schoolyard game where there's going to be lots of points and lots of big plays.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, as good as the Rams are, as sound as they are on both sides of the ball, the playmakers that I really trust to make a huge play in the clutch are on the Saints. Alvin Kamara is the second best receiver on his team.
What a beast he was on Monday.
And Michael Thomas might be the best receiver in football. And Drew Brees basically in his read progression is looking at 2 guys. And it doesn't matter because they're so good and they're on the same page. And I'll take the Saints as an underdog anywhere, even though it's in LA, it's not like they have a huge home field advantage the way the Saints do.
So. Yeah.
So certainly, I'll in a game that's really, really close between two teams, and I expect it to be. If you're going to give me that swing of 3 points, I'll take it. Because if this line came out Saints -3, I wouldn't be all that surprised. Todd Gurley looked healthy, but they didn't give him the ball a lot. They look like they're afraid to use him. Yeah. That's not the case with the Saints playmakers, so I will take New Orleans. Chicago at Denver. Two teams with relative expectations, and
we couldn't have been more wrong about Joe Flacco and the Broncos. When I think back on, bringing in a veteran quarterback with a good defense, like he looked lost last night. I don't know, like if that's the Joe Flacco we're going to get all year, and maybe again the preseason thing, first reps with the first team offense, but that offense looked really bad.
You know what offense looked worse?
Yeah, the Bears.
The Chicago Bears.
For sure. Yeah.
So what do we do? Because it's the Bears on the road. It's a 1.5 favorite for the Bears. Two theoretically good defenses. Good defense on paper. Maybe. I mean, the Bears certainly.
The Bears defense was good on Thursday. The Broncos defense wasn't what I thought they were.
No, and you got a defense for Denver that's got a real good pass rush, but I'm not sure how many times Matt Nagy's going to trust Mitchell Trubisky to pass the ball anyways.
Yeah.
Where are you going with this?
I'm going to go with the Bears. The defensive difference is the difference for me. I think the Broncos defense is not, like I said, what we thought it was. The Bears is, and these are two bad offenses. So, when some team has a distinct advantage, that's where I have to go, especially given the fact it's only a small spread.
I'm actually going to go with Denver. And there's no real good reason to, other than the fact they're at home, and I don't trust Mitchell Trubisky.
The Bears starting 0-2 would be surprising.
Well, and actually, and again, I'm all about storylines. That's the thing, because in every season, we have the exact same narratives and storylines and beats. And every year there are one, if not more, teams who made the postseason the year before. Everyone was really high on them. They exceeded expectations. And part of that is because they had a bad schedule. Then all of a sudden you get that first place in the division schedule. You get some expectations. You get some hype. And you have a terrible year. And really you come back to the pack. And to me, the biggest candidate in the NFL to be that team is the Bears. Yeah. And so I could totally see them going 0-2. I could totally see panic starting in and around Soldier Field. And so certainly when they're on the road in Denver, I think Denver will bounce back. So I'll take the home dog in the Broncos.
Interesting.
All right, that takes us to the primetime matchups. Sunday nighter, you get to watch one football game and one alone. Sunday night, your Eagles -1 going to Atlanta. 66% of the public is saying fly, Eagles, fly. What are you saying?
I'm saying fly, Eagles, fly. There were, for me, real concerns when they went down 17-0 against Washington. They looked like last year's team. They didn't look like the team that everyone was talking about them becoming, but they were a different team. Once Deshaun Jackson caught that first deep touchdown, everything changed. And I think when they came out in the second half, they were a dominant team. Carson Wentz looks like 2017 Carson Wentz again. He made some great throws. He didn't run around as much, but he did use his feet to make plays. And once they started running the ball, establishing the run, they didn't end up with huge numbers on the day, but that was a big difference maker in terms of time of possession. They ended up, looking like the team everyone thought they would. And the Falcons, they really, really struggled. I don't expect that to happen again, what happened in Minnesota, but I do see the offensive line where they took, two guys in the first round or with their first two picks to solidify that offensive line. It didn't work. One of them got hurt, and Matt Ryan is under pressure a lot. So I think given that it's such a small spread here, and the Eagles have seemed to have Atlanta's number the last couple of years, I'm going to go with the Eagles.
To me, the issue with Atlanta is on defense and their ability or inability to stop the run.
Yeah.
We talked about Minnesota ran all over them, and then when you have the Eagles coming to town with Darren Sproles and Jordan Howard and Miles Sanders, who they really, really like.
Yeah, and they all look good on Sunday.
They all looked really good. And so I love the run game in this matchup for the Eagles. And what do the Eagles do better than anyone? Run pass option. And when you have a deep threat again, like Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, he's a game changer.
He looked like he never left. It looked like his old self. 8 receptions, 154, 2 scores. I don't know if there's another player who's had more 30-plus, 40-plus, 50-plus big bomb touchdowns.
There's only one
Jackson.
more player.
Who's that?
Jerry Rice. That's it.
That's high praise.
The best.
That's
the
high
GOAT.
praise.
Yeah.
And the Falcons, in terms of their secondary, I don't see them being good enough to match up.
Yeah.
Especially where I think they're going to stack the box and try and stop the run early because they were gashed via the run a week ago.
If they do that, they're going to get burned.
But I don't think they have a choice, right?
Yeah.
You either die a slow death or you die a quick one.
Right.
And that's the biggest concern for me and for Quinn and that coaching staff is how do they manufacture some defense? Because he's no longer coordinating the Seahawks defense where you had playmakers and athletes all over the field. The Falcons defense is not like that at all.
Right.
I think the Eagles have a huge day offensively at night in Atlanta, and so I'm rolling with the Eagles. The last matchup of the week, the Monday nighter, Browns at Jets.
This might be the biggest game of the Browns season. Like, after that showing, they need to now prove that they're worthy of all that hype.
Well, and if we were looking at this matchup, coming into the year, we would say this is the game where Sam Darnold needs to prove that his draft stock makes sense in relation to Baker Mayfield. The conversation would be about these two quarterbacks and who is going to be the guy moving forward. Now, the Browns are just looking to, again, not start 0-2 and have all of the storylines be about this team that was hyped to challenge the Patriots. Now, maybe not even challenging for a playoff position. The Browns are favorites on the road at 2.5 points. Do you like them in this spot?
I do like them. I'm going to take them to bounce back here. The offensive line, like we talked about last week, is a big concern. Baker was under pressure all day, and he also didn't handle that pressure very well, so that's something to watch. But the Jets, again, Adam Gase doesn't look like the right kind of leader. He's blaming the guys. They blew a 17 or a 16-0 lead against the Bills at home, and I don't think the defense will bring the same kind of pressure against Mayfield as the Titans did. And, the way Mayfield spoke after the game, I think now, this is the time for them. If they are for real, then this is the game where they come out and show everybody, and I'm going to bet on them showing everybody.
So I'm rolling with the Browns, and it's less to do about the game or even where it is, and more so about when it is. In prime time, having the week to think about it and talk about it. And when you look back at Odell Beckham Jr. and his time with the Giants, some of his biggest performances have been on Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football. He's someone who loves the stage. Yep. And coming into this season, a lot of the talk was the fact that the Browns, who would have thought it, have a bunch of primetime football games because they're a team that people really, really care about. And when you have showmen like Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham Jr., I think the stage really, really matters, more so than it does for the Jets. And I do think they're going to bounce back in a big way. I like them big. So considering this line is pretty small at just 2.5, I'm going to take the Browns because despite the fact that the Jets were in a close football game against a other middle of the pack AFC East team, the Browns look terrible. Let's still look at the two depth charts. The Browns are clearly the more talented football team, and I think that will bear itself out over the course of the season and over the course of this football game. Which takes us to our survivor picks.
Yes.
That's the last thing we got for you. If you don't listen to anything we say, listen to this. Who you should pick in your survivor pool. I said I'm going to go off the board. I think you were going to play it a little safer.
Yeah.
Who you got?
Yeah, I'm going to take the Patriots against the Dolphins. I think at this point, if you just pick anyone who's playing the Dolphins, you should be okay. We said that about the Bills last year as well.
That's true.
That didn't go our way, but this is different. This feels different. Anyway, I think the Patriots are a lock to win this game. Whether they do it by 3 touchdowns or not, we'll find out. But I think they're a lock to win that game.
So it does feel different. And again, it feels different because we're not sure that the Dolphins are interested in winning football
I don't
games.
even think they want to.
So why not continue to bet on them to do what they're trying to do
Right.
and to lose? And I'm actually going to go with a team that's probably a little bit off the board, even though the spread in the game is pretty big. Baltimore Ravens. I think the spread is big because the Ravens really should win this football game. The number is so big that I'm picking the Cardinals in terms of who I would bet on. But just in terms of who I feel the most confident is going to come out with a win, outside of the Patriots,
Right.
who I
Who
picked
you already
last
took.
week,
Yeah.
so I cannot pick them again, I'm picking the Ravens. And I do think that their offense is for real. The fact that they've been able to establish the run and virtually just make decisions for Lamar Jackson very easy. Put the ball in the stomach of the running back, hand it to him if the zone read scheme says so. If it doesn't, drop back and throw it to whoever is wide open in the middle of the field because the box is now stacked because you weren't allowed to hand it to the running back. Like that's basically what he's doing.
And at some point, we're going to see him take off.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%, because he didn't really have to run that much. That's what we thought we were going to see. People loved him in fantasy because he was basically a
running back.
a middle of the pack quarterback, but probably like your RB2
Yeah,
in
right.
terms of a running back.
Right.
Not only did he throw 5 TD passes, he threw 4 of them to guys who were wide open, like college level separation. The Cardinals defense did not look good.
No, and they don't have Patrick Peterson.
They
so
don't have Patrick
that's a big
Peterson.
loss.
And Baltimore, one thing that they still can do is get after the passer. The Cardinals may have the worst offensive line in football.
Yeah.
And Kyler Murray can run around, but he can't do it and continue to put up points to stay with Lamar. I like the Ravens to win in this game. So I'm going to take Baltimore. You're going to have to take them at some point this year.
No, I think that's a good one.
And I'm not taking them in any of their divisional
games.
matchups
No,
because
no.
they're a crapshoot. So I'm going to take the Ravens against the Cardinals.
Nice.
That's what we've got for you this week against the spread. Make sure you are consuming our content on Sportsnet. We've got lots of football content. Most of it is coming from this man, Gilo. And make sure you stay in this space. Subscribe to our Sportsnet channel where we're going to have Against the Spread for you every week, picking against the spread, and lots of goodness. Thanks for watching.